Good afternoon or evening, gang. My name is Scott Major, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some of the options that you have available to you from insurance, relief and FEMA-related relief. Some of the strategies that you need to undertake that will help you to get quicker money, and also some thoughts about whether or not you should retain a public adjuster or a lawyer or do it on your own, or what the benefits and drawbacks of each one of those are. Let me start with explaining some of the basics of the FEMA relief. Then I'll go on to discuss some of insurance claim stuff, and then tell you some thoughts about what you should think about whether you want to hire another expert or somebody to help you and aid you. Fundamentally, the FEMA claims, the FEMA stuff comes from two basic food groups. That is FEMA housing relief and FEMA something they call other housing needs relief. Those are the two fundamental ways you get FEMA relief. There are other kinds through flood and stuff like that, but in terms of emergency relief, those are the two basic ways you get them. You have to qualify for those types of relief. Most of you in this situation will automatically qualify for that relief, and you'll be in a position where you can get some of the recovery depending on what kind of documentation you have. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the procedures. Before I get into the specifics of that, let me tell you a little bit about my background so you understand. I come from a law enforcement background also. My father's been a judge for a zillion years. My brother's had a homicide down in Florida. I'm a lawyer by trade. I've been through on my own 12 storms, including 2 Category 5 storms. So I know exactly what you have been through. I've lived through it. I've actually handled or been involved with 24 different storms in terms of seeing the devastation as well as the typical claims and problems that come up around those sorts of things. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experiences, and what you're facing is not necessarily atypical of what's going on. When we talk about FEMA claims, you have to think first about the most important thing about FEMA claims and the insurance claims is you have to have good documentation. That means you got to have pictures of every single thing or video of every single type of damage. You cannot rely on calling FEMA on the phone, having them come out, and they orally say, "Oh yeah, I see there's damage. I'll get back to you with a check." You want to make sure that you film or photograph or video each and every aspect, and you want to describe it in detail. If you have the ability to print the pictures or put them digitally on, you can write underneath it front bathroom or backyard or garage or wherever the area is, basement area on the northeast side. You want to detail it as much as possible so you're leaving no ability of FEMA or any insurance company to say, "Oh, I didn't see that damage. Oh, that's not really damage. Oh, you're just making that up." Blah, 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 blah. So it's important and fundamentally necessary to make sure you document that. So just a phone call to them doesn't do it, even if they think they're damaged. You have to understand there are literally hundreds of thousands of claims in multiple states. It's not just New York. There's New Jersey, there's Maryland, there's Connecticut, there's Massachusetts, there's Delaware. All have disaster-related areas that they're covering. There have been billions of dollars fed into the whole processing, and they can't even catch up with the amount of money they need to distribute. So you're having a lot of situations where people are being told by FEMA they're going to get money. They're either not getting money or they're getting an insufficient amount of money, and they don't know what to do and how to do it. Some people also have insurance policies, and FEMA's telling you, go to your insurance policy, we can't help you. The bottom line and most important thing to remember in these FEMA claims is to, 1, to document those damages, and 2, to apply. You have 3 separate ways to apply for FEMA relief. You can apply through the 1-800 number, picking up a phone and dialing them. You can apply through disasterrecovery.org, their actual online, where there is a form to fill out, and it asks you for all the information. You can also apply using your little smartphone or mobile device that has a direct app that allows you to do that. But everyone, let me underline everyone, let me say it again, everyone needs to apply and make sure they have fully filled out all the information that is related to FEMA. If you fill out all the information, you will automatically be registered to qualify for SBA loans at either 0 or 1% or very low rates, whether you take the loan or not. You want to make sure that you register for all this information, because in some cases a condition of relief, a condition to get a grant from FEMA, is to actually fill out the SBA form. The reason is because what they do is they conjunctively look at the situation and they'll either approve you or deny you for the loan money, and then they'll either approve you or deny you for cash payment. So just because you're approved or denied with the SBA loan possibility, it doesn't affect your ability to get the free money or the grant money. Grant money, I'm using that term to say they pay you, you have no obligation to pay back, okay? It's just another term of art versus a loan. But what you don't want to do is not apply for the SBA requirement, because some of your funds can be denied on a grant basis just because you don't qualify. One of the reasons the government does that is there's some requirements that relate to financial aid that they have tied into the grant requirements, even though ultimately you can get grant money whether or not you agree to a loan or not. So I want to make sure everybody understands that you got to fill out all the forms. You're going to eventually get something in the mail that says fill out these SBA requirements, and we'll send it back to us whether you qualify or not, and then they'll send you a notice. Now, when you get FEMA to come out, a lot of people have had FEMA come out. Okay, and sometimes they'll issue you some temporary money. Sometimes they'll tell you they're going to get back to you. You need to document everything they tell you. If they walk around and they say the shed isn't covered and the such and such is, you write that down, because you're going to write to FEMA when you get done, and you're going to say to FEMA, "Dear FEMA, Mr. Smith came by and looked at the property. Thank you very much for having him come by. He said that I was only going to get paid $49 for this, $262 for that, $2,400 for this, and he'd get back to me on the other stuff. Please provide me in writing with a reason why he's not covering the following items, which I've itemized, and why you're only paying me $49 on the claim that I should have gotten $6,212 on." You need to start documenting in writing. Because understand, they have FEMA representatives. Each one is sitting on a computer. They have thousands of claims to handle. You're just another number. It doesn't mean that they're terrible people. It means they're overwhelmed and they're inputting into a computer the proper information that you give them, but you're just another number to them. So we want to make it personal. We want to keep the pressure on them to make sure that what FEMA does is they actually pay attention to your claim. And one of the ways to do that is to aggressively pursue your claim, is to make sure you're documenting and you're writing them as to what they told you, what they didn't tell you. We're going to come back out next week. You write them, "Dear FEMA, hey, you said you were going to send another person out on December 1st, okay? They didn't come out. Please let me know when they're coming out. Please tell me in writing why they didn't come out." And you start documenting that, and what you can do is you can then get that claim elevated, so if the person isn't responding, that desk level person, it'll be elevated to management. Now, I've done a lot of town meetings, and you will find out that when you go to these town meetings, for example, the one I went to last night in Freeport, they had 15 or 16 FEMA people there, okay? And some people raised some concerns about the very things I'm talking about. And then what I call the man in the blue shirt, the guy who was sort of the manager, the regional head, stood up and he had to respond to questions when they said, "Well, I'm not getting paid my full amount, and FEMA says I'm not going to get paid. Is that right?" And I had to say in front of this giant panel, "No, FEMA owes you money." The man in the blue shirt stands up and says, "Major's right, they owe you money." So you're going to have some disinformation, some wrong information at that level, and some contradictory information. I wanted to get up to the guy in the blue shirt who says, this is the way it's done. You're entitled to all $31,000 or $6,000 or $29,000 or whatever amount you qualify to. The only way to do that is not to pick up a phone and just call the guy and say, "I have been calling and nobody's helping me." It's to show a trail that says, "I've written 7 letters and they haven't done that," or "They fixed my neighbor's property for the exact same problem. And by the way, here's the pictures of the exact same problem and they're not fixing mine. What are you doing about it?" So does everybody understand that the most important thing is to do that? I am telling you, this works. I am telling you, having handled thousands and thousands of these claims. Now, what I didn't tell you is I was also the former national top lawyer for one of the largest insurance companies in the world. So I certainly understand the way insurance claims work also, and what the typical reasons why somebody's going to deny a claim or delay a claim, okay? And that is why all of these panels and congressmen and legislators want me to speak on their panel, because there's not many lawyers, you know, who have police background, have an understanding of insurance from both sides, know FEMA, and know the people that are involved in FEMA. That's not to testimonialize. It's that there aren't many people that know what to do. And in fact, they'll tell you, if you talk to Jason or some of the other people, they'll tell you, FEMA people were looking at me saying, what's the answer to that FEMA question, Scott? The point I'm illustrating is that a lot of them don't have the answers and give you inaccurate information, not necessarily maliciously. So you have to aggressively pursue your claim and make sure you write them and you call them and you elevate it with documents and use your neighbor's documents and use your neighbor's pictures. And if you have, since you're a very tight-knit and collective group, if you have people who got a reward for this type of damage, everybody gets copies of those pictures. And everybody writes and says, my neighbor at 413 Long Beach Road got this recovery. When are you giving me my recovery? Please explain to me why you're not giving me my recovery. Love and kisses, you. Every time you write, I don't write, this is despicable and I'm going to sue you. I write, I'm a resident. I'm just trying to get the government to help me. I'm just trying to get you to honor the promises that you've made to us. I don't seem to understand why you're not giving me the same relief you gave Charlie 3 weeks ago, 3 days ago, 3 hours ago. So it's all part of this understanding of how to process these claims. On top of that, you need to recognize that just because FEMA gives you some money doesn't mean you're done. You can continue to ask for money and continue to document money. If you're getting estimates or people are fixing your places, let me emphasize to you, whether it's for FEMA relief or insurance relief, it is absolutely critical that you get written estimates. If you can, multiple estimates. If you've got your friend Bob and he's the contractor, he's a great contractor, get Bob to write you the contract and have Bob give you the name of his friend Jeff. And let Jeff write you another estimate. So it doesn't look like your buddy's just writing a self-serving estimate. So multiple estimates can also help you because they show that a consensus of people believe that this repair needs to be done at this price. Very important. Do not pay anyone in cash. Under any circumstances, do not pay anyone in cash. There's one exception. Do not pay anyone in cash. Okay? You write checks, you use credit cards. It is very important. Any person who performs any work on your property must be licensed, must be authorized in the county or state in which they are, or you probably will not get money for that claim. You also probably will not have a remedy against them if they screw up. If you are licensed in any situation, whether you're a licensed police officer or a licensed general contractor or a plumber or an electrician, you have a certain code. If you don't follow that code, your license can be removed. If you take somebody's license away, that's a big deal. So those people are going to honor their promises or they're going to suffer severely. If you find that there are problems with people not honoring their promises, every single one of you should report them to the state because an investigation will be done. There's a lot of people going around, particularly to elderly people, and knocking on the doors and using scare tactics. This happens in every case, every state that I've ever been in, every type of suit I've ever been in. When they had Hurricane Andrew way down in Florida, and if you saw the pictures, it looked like the nuclear bomb had been dropped. They were actually selling ice for like $50 a bag out of a truck. Okay? So I'm telling you that you have all of these situations come up. Now your police can be alerted and you should let them know, if there are problems so that they can police that so that it doesn't get away from them. And most of the time, police will respond favorably. It's not a one-off. It's like this is happening. Take pictures if you see somebody do it. Take a picture of his truck, take a picture of her car, take a picture of them, take a picture of the ice, take a picture of the shoes they're wearing, because you want to document. This is important because this is a time of big need. Now let me contrast the FEMA relief with insurance claim relief. Okay? Just because you get FEMA relief doesn't mean you can't get insurance relief. Just because you get insurance relief doesn't mean you can't get FEMA relief. Anybody who tells you from FEMA that just because you have an insurance policy, you can't recover from FEMA is not telling you the truth. Now, let me explain to you why. The reason is because your first line of defense, your first line of relief in getting recovery is always an insurance policy. Because if you have an insurance policy that covers it, you're not supposed to be able to get FEMA money to duplicate that. That sounds fair. So what they want you to do is to make your insurance claim. Now, that doesn't mean I shouldn't go into FEMA and I shouldn't apply or I shouldn't fill out all the forms till I file my insurance claim. I'm doing everything at once because I'm not waiting on anybody. The later that you apply for FEMA, the later your case number is, the lower down the rung you are. I want to make sure that I apply both for FEMA and for insurance. How do I apply for insurance? You will have usually 2 principal insurance policies, and you could have other ones, but the 2 principal policies you'll have is a homeowner's insurance policy and a flood policy. Some people have flood policies that are also put out by the National Flood Program, and those types of policies are also covered by insurance, and separate insurance carriers usually are parts of that. Now, some people have car insurance. Some car insurance, unbeknownst to many people, will pay for the tree that falls on your car and destroys your car. Okay, so there are times when your car insurance can cover it. Some people have umbrella policies on top of their car insurance, or umbrella policies on top of their homeowners that may cover different things that aren't ordinarily covered by the typical insurance you have. Now, how do I determine what insurance is going to cover me? Well, first thing, I want to apply to everyone. How do I apply? Fundamentally, I can call my insurance agent who will tell me the name of the insurance company, but I want to make sure, let me underline, I want my insurance agent involved in this process. I do not want you to have the insurance agent say, great, I'll help you. Here's the 1-800 number. Wish you the best of luck. Okay? They need to be a part of your claim. You paid them money. They need to be a part of your claim. They need to be writing you letters telling you what they're doing to help you on your claim. Okay? If they earn their premium, just like the insurance company earned their premium. So it's very important to make sure your insurance agent is a part of it. The good agents will be a part of it. They will help you get your claim. They will show up to your property if necessary. They will make sure the inspector gets out there or the expert gets out there. If they don't, they're not doing their job. Do not tolerate anything less. When you're making your claim, a phone call to your insurance agent is not a report of a claim. A letter to your insurance agent is not a report to your claim. The only way you can make a valid claim is to actually have the insurance company issue you a claim number. The way that's done is your agent can help you is to either fill out a particular form based on the insurance company or to call the claims number for that insurance company. If it's Travelers, if it's Narragansett, if it's any of the other claims, you call the insurance company. They will then get the claims person on the phone. Hi, we're the Good Hands people. How do we help you? I've got a claim. Here's my damage. Please open a claim for me. I'm sorry, sir, you're not covered. Please open a claim for me. What's your name? Joe Smith? Dear Joe Smith, I called you yesterday. I itemized all my damages. I'm expecting a claim to be open. They cannot refuse to open a claim. It is a violation of law. If insurance companies continue to violate law, their license can be suspended or revoked. Imagine telling one of these insurance companies they can't write any more insurance policies in the entire state of New York until they finish your claim. That'll get their attention. So it's very important to understand they must open a claim for you. Okay? If you have a covered item, if they're not going to open a claim, they have to write you and tell you why they're not doing that. Again, use the same documentation process. You want to send them all the pictures, all the video, all the reports of your friends, whatever you've got, the estimates. If you have an expert or a plumber or an engineer goes out to your property and says you have structural damage, you include all those reports in that package. You send it to the insurance company. We start the same documentation. When he's sending somebody out to my property, Tuesday? Great. Dear friend, thank you very much for agreeing to open my claim and send me out the guy on Tuesday. I'll be waiting at 9 o'clock out some house. Please note that I am adjusting my plans in totally because you're sending this person out. Okay? 9 o'clock comes, they don't show up. At 10 o'clock, I'm writing them another letter. I don't understand why you're not honoring your promises. The reason why is because Companies can be guilty of bad faith. If you show a pattern of reckless conduct, they can be sanctioned. You also can get free attorney's fees and other sanctions on top of whatever money you get if they don't perform. So it is very important when you're doing these claims to make sure that you also let the insurance company know in writing of everything that they promised you. If a guy comes out to your property or a girl comes out to your property and says anything, you do one of two things. Let me see something. I got my phone here. Let me grab my phone. Would you say that again? I got the recorder going. Or walk around with the person with your camera and, okay, you're now looking at the house. Click, click. What did you say about that door? You're not closing it? Okay, let me write that down. Let's move to the bathroom. Click, click. What are they going to say to you? I'm not going to look at it. I'm not speaking to you. What are you, a 5-year-old? They're going to have to respond. Just don't assume that you can't be involved in the claim. It's your claim. And make sure you document. If the person says, I'm not looking at that bathroom, listen, I don't understand why you're not, I don't say you're a jerk. I don't understand why you're not looking at the bathroom. Let me write that down. You know, dear insurance company, I was stunned that despite my bathroom was filled with sewage, despite my bathroom door was completely warped, that your agent didn't think it was important enough to do that. Would you please write me and tell me why? You see what we're doing? We're creating a track record. You want to get paid? You do that. If I'm an insurance company and I'm advising them on whether to pay, and I've got 3,000 claims of people who are waiting on the agent, and I got 6 people who are writing me 9 letters, who am I paying? I got 5 people who are writing me letters saying they got to report me to the insurance company. Who am I paying? So the concept is, we're not being mean to the insurance company. We're protecting your rights. We're making sure that your residents get taken care of in every way that is appropriate and possible. Okay? When you're processing your claim, you'll either have a homeowner's or a flood policy, as I mentioned. How do you know which applies? Generically speaking, if wind, rain, other types of impact occurs to your structure, occurs to other parts of your property, that's generally a homeowner's policy type of thing. If the sole cause is a flood, then that is generally covered by your flood insurance policy. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be an insurance expert. You're going to tell both companies, or however many companies you have, that you have damage. You're going to have them come out and tell you what's right and wrong. Okay? It's not your job to decipher between the two. You get them to open a claim. You treat the flood the same as you do the homeowners. You call them up, you get the claim number, you document, you send all your information. Generally speaking, flood differs in that flood will have like a basic contents extra, where if you have certain contents, based on what room you insured, it'll say like basement and above, or it'll say main level and above, or it'll say second floor. We'll cover those items that are in that particular area in the amount of the deductible or the amount of the coverage that it says. Okay, if we have homeowners insurance, there are basically 4 different types of coverage that you have. The first coverage is called Coverage A. That's structure. That is, if you have something that happens to your structure, you have foundational problems, you have problems with the roof, you have problems with the doors, the things which are affixed around your house, that is structure, and that will be covered under that deductible. That's your main house. Okay? If you go to Coverage B is other structures, fencing, saw a lot of that around here. Okay? A separate garage that isn't necessarily attached. Other types of structures that aren't necessarily attached, shed, those things are covered under the Coverage B. Then there's a Coverage C for contents. Your shoes, your computers, your clothing, your furniture, your items which are inside. Those things are covered by your contents type of policy. And D, Coverage D, is your loss of use. Your inability to stay in your home, but you still had to pay your mortgage or your rent, or your inability to rent that property, depending on what kind of property you have. Okay? Those are 4 coverages. Each of those coverages will have a separate amount to it. How do you know what that amount is? Everybody's entitled to a copy of your insurance policy. If you don't have it, you call your insurance agent and repeat after me. I would like a certified copy of my insurance policy. Today, preferably. Today. They're to call the insurance company and get it. If they don't have it, on them. Most insurance agents will have copies of your policy, but if they don't, they're entitled and they're responsible to get them. You could also call your insurance company. Please email a certified copy of the policy. The reason why it's certified is the certified means they attach all the endorsements and extra paperwork. If you have insurance, you'll notice every so often you get this letter in the mail and it says extra endorsement, and nobody knows what the heck it is. It's a bunch of garbage, and you throw it in your folder. You have no idea what it means. Nobody knows what it means, and you put it in your folder. When you get your certified copy of the policy, it has every single piece of paper in it. So you're assured that you're going to get a full copy of the policy. You want to make sure you have a copy of each policy that you own. If you don't have it, ask the people, ask the insurance agent, ask the insurance company for a copy of it. They have to give it to you. On the first page of that document, now you can act like you know everything about insurance. There's something called a declarations page. If you want to sound cool, you say, do you have your deck page? Your deck page is your first page, and it's supposed to declare your coverage. That's why they call it a declarations page. So that first page will say, coverage A, structure, $250,000. Or it'll say, coverage C, contents, $110,000. Or it'll say flood, and it'll say contents below it, $150,000. Above the basement, or basement and above. And you'll see, and it tells you generically what your coverage is. Understand, insurance policies are policies of exclusion. Really, the insurance company writes you the first page and says, this is what you're covered. And here's 45 pages of what's not covered. The entire policy is all about exclusions. Now, I'm being general about it, but the concept is that there are more exclusions than inclusions. Whatever's not excluded is included. So what you want to do is make sure that you understand what your coverage is. Now, you're not experts. You don't have to be. Now, you can either get a public adjuster or a lawyer that I'm going to talk about to help you. There's also public organizations. Nassau County and Suffolk County has these law forums where you can call the local bar association. They can also help you if you want. But the concept is, with the insurance policies, is to do the same thing that you did with FEMA. Write them every day, and everything they tell you, you need to write them. And if they haven't expended the money and fronted the money, you get them to tell you in writing why they're not doing. I don't care what you say. Hello, insurance company? I don't care if you say it's because your dog ate your homework. I need to get a letter from you that says what it is. And if not, I'm calling the state. I need to get my insurance policy that I paid for, the promise you made to me that you collected money for, honored. So you understand that you have both the insurance side and the FEMA side. Now, should you hire an expert? Should you hire a public adjuster? Should you hire a lawyer? Should you let your local general contractor handle it? Should you do it on your own? Here's the pros and cons of that. The benefit to a public adjuster is if you get a licensed public adjuster who has handled claims like this, they generally understand how insurance policies work and how to get coverage. They can generally charge somewhere between 6 and 12% for a fee, a contingency fee, for what they do. They generally will come out, they will write an estimate, and then they will contact the insurance company and try to help you get paid. Okay? Sounds like a good deal. Sounds like they know what they're talking about. Why don't I just hire a public adjuster? Well, you are going to have to pay them a fee, number one. And number two, they're not like a lawyer. Well, what does that mean? Well, lawyers can sue for you. Public adjusters can't. Put yourself into the place of now you're the insurance company and you're in charge of paying money. If you know that the public adjuster or the person can't sue you, you may not pay them as much money as you know if you know they're going to sue you, and they may get not only the money, but interest, plus attorney's fees, plus costs, and then the insurance company has to pay their own lawyer on top of it. So when you get a lawyer involved, generally speaking, you tend to get more money. Again, these are generalizations. I am not knocking adjusters. I have a lot of them. They're my friends. But there are pros and cons. What other benefits that a lawyer has is that a lawyer is required to know the law on every kind of avenue of relief that you have. They're required to tell you that. They're required to aggressively pursue your claim, and they can also get a contingency fee. Lawyers will also bring out much more sophisticated engineers. They will actually pay most of them for like an engineer to come out, as opposed to just an adjuster, who will come out and say, I will certify under my license that there is damage to this structural part of this property or this foundation. That's a lot stronger than your local estimator coming out and saying that you have damage. Doesn't mean you're not going to get paid. You're just seeing the degree to to which you can increase your claims. So why don't I just hire a lawyer? Well, lawyers are more expensive. Lawyers will, on these claims, do it on a contingency. But generally, the contingencies range somewhere between 10 and about 35%. Now, lawyers tend to get more money because they can aggressively sue, so your net number may be ultimately not much different. So let's take an example of if I got $50,000. If I got $50,000 and I paid a public adjuster 10%, I'd get $5,000. Well, if the insurance company knew that the total claim was 50, they might only offer you 20. So if you took 20, you'd have to pay $2,000, but you'd get 18. If you hired a lawyer and the lawyer got all 50 and you paid him 30%, you'd get $35,000, so you would get more money. But you have the exposure of if the lawyer doesn't get as much, you're paying a higher percentage. You're basically paying for the level of aggression that you want. Sometimes, in many of the cases that I'm involved with, there might be a public adjuster who comes to me and says, Scott, I need you to help me. Please help me with the claim. And then you have a public adjuster and a lawyer, and the lawyer and the public adjuster agree to their fees so that it doesn't increase. So you might have a 10% for a public adjuster and a 20% for a lawyer, instead of 10 and 40 or 10 and 30. But the concept is you can talk to the lawyers and decide what's best for you. The best way, if you want to get analysis of a claim, if you go on the website to stormdreamteam.com, www.stormdreamteam.com, and we'll give you a flyer if you want. You can fill out an information form that asks for all your insurance information. It gets then sent to an expert, whether it's a public adjuster or a lawyer. They look at all the information and tell you, you got a good claim, you got a lousy claim. I recommend a lawyer, I recommend a public adjuster, I can handle it, I can't handle it. And you'll get input, free input essentially, to decide whether or not you want to retain somebody or not. Sometimes, and I've had situations where I just tell the person, you don't need me. Just do the following things, and you could do it. Last night we had somebody who I spoke to had a very good claim. They said, I want to hire me. You don't need to hire me because if you make these phone calls and fill out these forms, they have to pay you. Why don't you do that first? If it doesn't work, call me and I'll get involved. So you will have people, a variety of different people, that get that form that may help you in one way or another. The concept being in all this is just to understand that you have a variety of opportunities, but it's all based on documentation and aggression. It's all based on affirmative follow-up and getting the right experts in place. Hopefully that gives you a brief summary of the kinds of things that we do. I'm certainly available to answer questions, but I wanted to, in a short period of time, get enough information where you can get that. On that Storm Dream Team, and what's the other thing, Storm Relief?
No, Storm Help Team.
There's also Storm Help Team. It goes to the same website. There's eventually going to be how-to videos, links to FEMA, all kinds of things on there. But right now, it has just some basic video links, and it has the claim form, which goes to the experts. Did I cover everything for everybody?
Yeah,
okay.
Some questions and answers.
Okay.
The thing that I really wanted to understand is that you have a policy from your insurance company for regular homeowners, and you have another separate policy for flood insurance, but it's through FEMA. What do you do if you have?
The question is, so repeat for the video, the question is that if you have an insurance policy, but you know, like a homeowner's insurance policy, but you also have a flood policy, whether it's through FEMA or somebody else, and let's just assume it's through FEMA, but it can be through anybody. Who pays? Let me tell you, it's always the insurance company's first line that you have to go through in terms of who's going to pay first. Because if you can get money through your insurance company, that's the first relief you're required to do. Okay? If you can't get relief through them, or if once you get relief it's insufficient, FEMA has an obligation to pay if you qualify. Okay? That doesn't mean I'm going to wait to make a FEMA claim. I'm making them both at the same time. But in terms of the avenues of relief, your insurance is primary to you. Any insurance policy you have is primary. It doesn't mean you don't get FEMA relief. It means that it's primary first. And that's the way it is.
But if your flood insurance is through FEMA, actually through FEMA,
right.
You couldn't get a mortgage unless we had flood insurance.
Right.
But the flood insurance was through FEMA, and we applied for all of the necessary things. Now, my question is there anything more?
Yes.
FEMA?
If you get insurance through flood insurance, you get. you could separately qualify for temporary relief. You could separately qualify for other housing relief. You absolutely can qualify under FEMA relief for whatever FEMA relief provides. So the whole key is what you want to do is make sure you go on the site and apply for FEMA relief, apply to your insurance company, and then stay on FEMA to make you tell them exactly what they're going to pay, what they're not going to pay, and why. And then you'll have the best relief.
Yeah, but FEMA denied me everything. Said, go through your flood insurance. And they denied everything that
Listen, I can't stop people from doing stupid things. I can only tell you that you're entitled to FEMA relief. FEMA cannot deny you on the basis that you have insurance coverage. What FEMA can do is delay payment and say, your flood insurance first has to deny you before we're going to issue funds related to your flood. But if you have an emergency need, like you have dental needs, or you have housing needs, or you're subject to the STEP program where you get temporary electrical to get you back in your house, that's got nothing to do with whether you have flood coverage, because that's an emergency type of relief. So what you tell FEMA is you got to write them. So you can get them in the blue shirt, you got to write them, and you got to say, you are denying me. I am qualified. Please write me and tell me specifically why you are denying me. Because I'm entitled to FEMA relief. Just because I have the existence of insurance. I have called my flood insurance, they have come out and they've not paid, or they've only paid this amount. You can't sit on your behind and not pursue the insurance claim in order to get FEMA relief. They're right in the sense that if you do have coverage, you have to go through them, but you're making it all simultaneously. Yes, sir.
I had the same problem as her. I have flood insurance. I got a letter from FEMA stating because you have flood insurance, we do not pay you anything.
Yeah.
Now what do? I wait for my flood insurance to deny me, then go back to FEMA?
The answer is...
I have to go through that whole thing all over again. I for an hour and 25 minutes, stood in my house with all sorts of gimmicks and everything and measuring and everything, and then a day and a half later, I got a letter in the mail 2 days later, we're denying you because you have flood insurance.
Yeah, my particular opinion to you, and there are lots of different opinions, is that you get somebody to document what your damages are in writing. So whoever came out and measured your home and did all things, you have them write a report saying this is the exact damages that were caused from this type of event. You send it to FEMA, you send it to your insurance company, you write them and say you have no right to deny me, but you call your insurance company, you get your insurance company to come out as fast as they can so that they can either deny you or tell you why, because whatever they don't pay, FEMA's got to pay. Depending on, and again, you might have certain housing or other housing needs that have nothing to do with your flood insurance policy that are covered by FEMA. You might have to elevate it to the man in the blue shirt. But we first have to document and let them write back and say why it is they're denying, and if it's just based on the fact you have flood insurance and they write you that, then you call the supervisor and you get them to talk to you, because you will see divergent views. The key is to work your way up the food chain, but you're entitled to relief. They cannot deny you relief when you're qualified, even though they're doing it. I'm just telling you, they're doing it everywhere. And by the way, they did it in Louisiana. And by the way, they did it in Texas. And by the way, they did it in Florida. Doesn't make it right, and it's unfair to you, but the only way to fight back is with aggression.
I got a question for you. FEMA was the first one to my house, and they came in and they had like a laptop computer. Now, it's a federal institution. Am I entitled to that stuff?
Yes.
So write them a letter and say, I want a copy.
Be greatly appreciated if you send me a copy of that information with a description of which parts you're paying and not paying and why. Thank you very much.
Did they do that with you?
You do the same thing?
Yeah.
You do the same thing? You write. See, this is my second request. This is my third request. Hello, I want to speak to the man in the blue shirt. Man in blue shirt, I got the 3 requests here. What gives? What's the problem? Why aren't you giving me that? By the way, you don't need that because I don't really care what they do, but you are entitled to it. Because what you care about is what you document. What they document is their problem. It's good to have it because you're going to show them that you have coverage, but you want to document your own stuff. You want to create your own thing. If it's cold, you can turn on the heat now. We can shut the camera down if you want. So just turn it on. It's okay. Yeah, we can keep asking questions. We can just discontinue filming.
Here's a question. The only piece of property comes off its foundation with a storm. Okay? You have a mortgage on that property. That check's
rebuild.
You use that money to rebuild. You have a total loss.
Right?
House has to come down.
Well, the key is if you have insurance,
Right.
and your insurance pays you, then you're entitled to insurance for that claim.
Right, can you rebuild with it, or is that automatically go to the bank to pay off the mortgage that you still have on the
Okay,
property?
let's talk about that a second. The question is, how does the fact that you have a mortgage impact on your claims?
Right.
It depends on what the mortgage says. But generally speaking, if you go into the bank that you have the mortgage with, generally speaking, what the bank will do is they will sign off on it so long as you have a written contract to actually fix those problems. Because really, you want the problems fixed.
Let me also inject one thing. The state of New York has put a referendum in so that even if you're behind on your mortgage or even in foreclosure, just saying, they cannot hold your insurance money to fix your property. So all the money, even like I said, if you're behind in your mortgage, you're not paying your mortgage, in the state of New York, they are not allowed to hold your money. They must give you the money to make repairs. So that's a new New York thing they just passed like 4 or 5 days ago, and they're not allowed to hold your check up. What's
Okay,
that?
but, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No, but FEMA told us that they wouldn't be able to give us any relief money because it wasn't our primary home. Is that true?
That's an accurate statement that if it's not your primary residence, you are likely to be denied FEMA relief.
But
There are exceptions, but generally speaking, it has to be your primary residence.
But the flood
What if your
insurance you
renter can't
can't
live in
use
that
to rebuild?
Then you might get relief. Sorry?
But the flood insurance money you can use to rebuild?
Yes.
Or they just not,
That's what you just said.
rather they just leave
Yes.
you in empty
Well,
lot?
your
Right.
insurance is insurance. If you're covered, regardless if you live there or not, your insurance is covered on the house. But if if that's your secondary residence and you're not living there, you're trying to get help with renter, your rental and something.
Well, I lost my rental on the house. She's gone. So,
Right.
I mean, she can't live there because I have red stickered in. And I had an inspector saying that, a licensed inspector saying its foundation is damaged. But I still haven't heard from the flood insurance people.
Right. What's that?
Did they waive it?
Yeah, it's our understanding the state of New York and New Jersey has waived the deductible.
On everything?
According to what we've heard, they said they waived it.
If you have a hurricane claim, they're supposed
Homeowners,
It's not a hurricane
homeowners
claim.
get $1,000.
Again-
They're calling it a
super. I understand what they're calling it. I understand what they're calling it, and I understand they're claiming that there's no deductibles. I disagree with that interpretation. Anybody can make the arguments they want. Nobody wants to pay money. Okay, this is why lawyers get involved in litigation. I've handled thousands of these claims in litigation, and I'm just telling you that I wouldn't have a job. They are. I don't want to say they're in the business of collecting premiums and not paying, but you can see what happens. In all these cases, it is such a nightmare to get people to honor their promise to pay. And you just have to recognize, if they want to choose that, you have no remedy but to go to court. So you need to have the proper people in place so that you can create this proper motivation for them to pay you the money the quickest and the most.